Hello and welcome everyone to the YouTube channel of Infinity Learn by Sri Chaitanya. I'm Ravindram and I'm going to discuss the physics portion of your LTC AIIMS examination, that is weekend tests number 17. Okay, so let's quickly begin with the very first question of this test is that a charged particle moves in a magnetic field. Magnetic field is given and its direction is also given, right? And the velocity is also given 5 I cap plus 4 j cap. The path of the particle will be, see, the path of the particle will be, before deciding the path of the particle we need to draw the vectors properly. See, this velocity vector is like somewhat like this velocity vector is somewhat like this. Okay, and this will have two components. With Where is the first component? The first component is parallel to magnetic field and other component is perpendicular to it. The component which is parallel to the magnetic field, as you can see, the component which is parallel to the magnetic field is not responsible for any force acting on the charge. Only the component which is perpendicular to the magnetic field is responsible for the circular motion of the charged particle in magnetic field. And now what is happening? The particle is performing circular motion because of this because of this velocity. Which velocity? This v perpendicular. And along with the circular motion, because of the v parallel, it is moving forward as well, and therefore the path is helical in nature. So what is happening? The charge is experiencing a circular motion because of this component, and because of this component it is moving forward, so we will say its overall motion will be helical in nature, right? Now here, whenever velocity, the magnetic force is what? Q times vector v cross vector b. So here, if vector v is parallel to vector b, then force will be 0. Do you understand? Then the force will be 0. Are you able to figure out this thing? Okay, so we are going to use this concept particularly here. Okay, so as we can see that the velocity is parallel to the magnetic field, so there is no magnetic force. So on this particular electron, there is no magnetic force, but there is electric force. And electric force is this. This is the formula for electric force. So it is acting opposite to the motion of electron. Okay, here. So definitely the electron is getting retarded, or the velocity will decrease. That is why fourth option is correct. Okay. Now here, a proton and an alpha particle both enter a region of uniform magnetic field B, moving at right angles to the magnetic field B, right? So if the radius of circular orbits for both the particles is equal, so the radius are given same, and the kinetic energy of proton is given, and they want us to find out the kinetic energy of alpha particle. So in this question I have written the solution perfectly well. Radius is mv by bq, as you can see, radius is mv by bq. Mv is momentum, so we can express it as root over 2 mk by bq. Now let's write down what is the mass of proton, number one, and what is the charge of proton, then mass of alpha particle, and then charge on the alpha particle. Mass of proton is m, mass of alpha particle is 4m. Charge on proton is e, the charge on alpha particle is 2e. Now they have given us that the radius of proton and radius of alpha particle are same. So what is the formula for radius? From the first equation we can put it here. Now 2 and b, they are constants, they will be cancelled out. So on solving, we can say this: mp into kp upon qp square is equals to m alpha into k alpha upon q alpha square. Now put the values and you will find out that kp and k alpha are coming out to be same. That means the answer is 1 mega electron volts. Did you understand? So watch the solution and try to solve it on your own. Now in this question, what they have done is they have already given you up to mega electron volt proton. That means energy of the proton is already given to you, magnetic field is given to you, and their mass of the proton is given to you, and they are asking you what is the force, right? So how we will approach this problem? See, kinetic energy is half mv square. This is given already 2 mega electron volts. So 2 mega electron volts. Mega means 10 to the power 6. Electron volt means 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joules. This is joules. Now after solving this, put the mass of the proton here, and you find the velocity to be 4 into 10 to the power 14. That is v square, and v is coming out to be 2 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second square. Sorry, meter per second. Now what is the force on the charge? QVB. So everything is given, charge is given, velocity is found out, magnetic field is given. Put the values and your answer will be this. Did you understand? Question number 5. A proton and an alpha particle enter a uniform magnetic field with the same speed. That means here they have given that the speed is same, right? If the proton takes 25 microseconds in 5 revolutions, then the periodic time for the alpha particle will be. What is the formula for time period? 2 pi m by bq. Right, this is the formula. And what is the time period of proton? 25 microseconds for 5 revolutions. So for one revolution it will be 25 by 5, that is 5 microseconds. Now we will do the ratio Tp upon T alpha. So whether they enter with the same speed or not doesn't matter, because the ratio of the time periods is independent of the velocity. It depends only upon their mass and charge, as we can see clearly. So it is mp upon qp into q alpha upon m alpha, as you can see here. Now let's put the values. Mass of proton is m, mass of the alpha particle is 4m, charge of alpha particle is 2e, and charge of proton is e. Put the values, their answer will be 1 upon 2. The answer will be 1 by 2. Now we can say T alpha is 2 times Tp. Tp is 5 microseconds. So Tp is 5. 5 into 2 is what? 10 microseconds. So answer is what? 10. Third option is correct. Got it? Now what kind of force this wire is experiencing? Let's try to find out. See, if I take a very small element here, right? What is the direction of current right now? The direction of current is like this. Okay. Where is the magnetic field? Magnetic field is into the plane of the paper, right? So what is the force? The magnetic force dF is equals to I times vector dl cross vector v. Vector dl is this is what? Magnetic field, and this is vector dl, yes or no? So what is the force? dl cross b. Now you tell me, dl is this, magnetic field is inside, so dl cross b, the thumb is like this. So you can clearly say that the force is in this direction. Likewise, on every element, force will be like this. So it will be somewhat like this, that this wire will be stretched. Yes, because the force is acting outwards. So as if this wire is stretched in all the directions. So we will say that this wire will expand. Okay, so which option is correct? Second option is correct. Now, a current of 10 ampere is flowing in a wire of length 1.5 meter. So, current is given, length is given, the force acting on the wire is given, and the magnetic field is given. What they are asking is theta. So, very simple. What do you do? Use the formula. Vector F is I times vector L cross vector B, or ILB sin theta. Put all the values and get the answer, right? So, theta comes out to be 30 degrees. Very simple question. No need to worry. Question number 8, they are directly asking you the formula for Biot-Savart law, which is this. Okay. Now, in this question, what they have given is a wire is placed in a magnetic field and it experiences a force of 10 root 3 Newton. And if the maximum possible force is 20 Newton, then what is the angle in the first case? See, F is equals to ILB sin theta, and maximum force is this ILB. So can I write F is equals to, can I write this? F is equal to ILB is F max. So F max times sin theta. Now you just have all the values, you put them and get the right answer. Theta comes out to be 60 degrees. Do you understand? Now question number 10. A bar magnet whose initial length was L and magnetic dipole moment was M. So capital M is equal to small m into L. Do you understand? Right? This is given. Now if you bend it, the effective length will change and will become L dash. Now as you can see, this is an equilateral triangle, point OAB. This is an equilateral triangle. So L dash is also equal to R. This is your second point. Now what is the new magnetic moment right now? It will be M dash, that is pole strength into the new length L dash, which is equals to R. So M into R. So what is small m? Small m from first equation will be what? From first equation, small m is equals to capital M by L. Now you put it here, and then you will say capital M into R by small l. So finally you will say m dash is equals to m into R by L. R by L, what is L? L is R. See, we all know that arc length is equals to radius into theta, right? So here I have done in the denominator R into theta. R and R gets cancelled. Answer is m by theta. Theta is 60 degrees, that is pi by 3. So answer is 3m by pi. That means fourth option is correct. Got it? 11th question. This is also an interesting one. See, the force created due to any pole, magnetic pole, is inversely proportional to R square. So they are saying force becomes X if if the distance is n times increased. So nr. Can you see? Follow this line. C by nr whole square. So C by r square into 1 by n square. And the force becomes Y if the distance is reduced by n value. So C upon r by n whole square. So this is C by r square again into n square. Now you take the ratio y by x. Here you take the ratio y by x. What are you going to find out? It is coming out to be n square upon 1 by n square. Which is what? Y is equals to n to the power 4 into x. And I suppose this is the answer as well. Fourth option is correct. Now question number 12. So they have given us two magnetic poles and they are asking you the net magnetic field here at the vertex of an equilateral triangle. So obviously the angle between these two forces is 60 degrees, and whenever two vectors, remember this thing, whenever two vectors of equal magnitude are acting at an angle 60 degrees, the resultant is always in the angle bisector root 3 times of it. We know this thing already. So that is why it is root 3b. And what is the magnetic field due to one pole? It is mu naught by 4 pi into m by d square. Just like charge, what is the force due to a point? What is the field due to a point charge at a distance r? You will say, sir, k q by r square. Similarly, due to a magnetic dipole, what is the magnetic field at a distance r? Instead of k, you will say mu naught by 4 pi. Instead of q, you will say m by r square. Same kind of formula, right? Overall result will be root 3 times b. So write root 3 and then find out the value of b and put it here and get the answer. Okay. Now, magnetic induction on the axial line actually not decreases, is it increases if you change the length. And magnetic induction on the equatorial line, it actually decreases, not increases. So remember this thing, that is why both are false. Now here they are asking you to find out magnetic field here. So obviously this is minus m, this is plus m. The distance is r by 2. The distance where you want to find out the magnetic field is r by 2 from both the ends, right? So what will happen? You will say, sir, this magnetic field is because of one element will be what? Mu naught by 4 pi into m upon distance whole square, r by 2 whole square. Now since both the south pole will produce magnetic field towards itself, north will produce away from itself. Both the magnetic field will be in the same direction. That is why I have multiplied 2 here, because they will be added. Now you have all the things, you put the values and definitely you will get that answer. Question number 15. Again, a magnetic moment of short magnet. So magnetic moment means capital M is given. What is the induction at point 20 centimeter away on its equatorial line? See, if you have a bar magnet like this and they ask you what is the magnetic field at the equatorial position here, it is always in this direction. And how much is this? The formula is mu naught by 4 pi into m by r cube. Put the values, get your answer. Again, you will get first option right. Now, a bar magnet having magnetic dipole moment capital M is cut along its length. Cut along its length into two equal parts. One of these parts is placed over another. See, so it is cut along like this, like this. So we have two parts. So when you cut it like this in the equatorial direction, remember students, the pole strength does not change. Only the length becomes half. So this is L by 2, but the pole strength is still plus M and minus M. That is why the magnetic moment will become half because the length has become half, right? Otherwise, pole strength does not change if you cut it like this. Now you are keeping both these. As you can see, this is diagram number 1. This is diagram number 2. As you can see in the diagram number 3, they are kept like this, crisscross. So one will produce a magnetic moment of m by 2. Another will also produce a magnetic moment of m by 2. Resultant will be, since they are at 90 degrees, so resultant will be root 2 times the initial dipole moment, sorry, initial magnetic moment. So root 2 times m by 2, which is m by root 2. So this is the resultant. That is why first option is correct. I hope you understood. Okay, students. 17th. Three identical bar magnets, each of magnetic moment m, are arranged in the form of equilateral triangles such that unlike poles are in contact. So they are forming a closed triangle. And if three vectors are added in a closed triangle, their vector sum is always 0. That is why the net answer will be 0. Right. Now, if a bar magnet of pole strength m and magnetic, see, let me explain you this thing. So we have a bar magnet like this, and they are saying that you cut this bar magnet into how many pieces? 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. Okay. So when you take this individual piece, a small piece, so this time the length is not changed. Length is still L, but the pole strength becomes m by 5. Okay. So for this piece, magnetic moment becomes m by 5 into L, which is m by 5, because right now the magnetic moment is m into L. Do you understand? Now you cut it into 4 equal halves again, like this. Now you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 equal halves. So you get this small bar magnet now. And this small bar magnet, if you cut like this, the pole strength will not change, it will remain f by 5, but again the length will become L by 4 now. So what is the new magnetic moment? It will be, pole strength is m by 5 into length is L by 4, that is ml by 20, that is m by 20. So finally you have pole strength m by 5 and magnetic moment m by 20. Third option is correct. Do you understand this? So whenever you cut it axially, the pole strength changes. Okay, and whenever you cut it equatorially, the length only changes, the pole strength remains same. Okay, now here we have to add them. So this is a question of simple vectorial addition. So this is m and this is m, they both become 2m. Now you take this m and this m, they both become 2m at this angle. So the overall angle between them becomes 120 degrees. And again the same concept. Whenever you are adding two vectors of equal magnitudes at 120 degree, the resultant is also a vector of same magnitude, that is 2m only. At the angle bisector, that means at 60 degrees. So answer is 2m. This is a question of vector addition only. Question number 20. Magnetic lines are continuous and closed? Yes. Magnetic monopoles do not exist? Yes. Because always magnetic dipoles exist. Minus m and plus m exist together. It is not possible that you have only plus m. No, it's not possible. So monopole is not possible. Only dipoles are there. Monopole is not possible. Okay. So both are true. Question number 21. See, A is given 0, B is given 0, and Y is given 1. Okay. So how do we do is, first of all, let's write down OR and AND gate both. So I start with OR. So if A and B are 0, 0, OR gate answer will be 0. If they are 1 and 0, then answer will be 1. If they are 0 and 1, then answer will be 1. If they are 1 and 1, then answer will be 1. But if you just do its opposite, then you will get 1, 0, 0 and 0, which matches with our answer. That means it's a NOR gate. So what I'm trying to do is, what I do in these kind of problems, you will ask me, sir, how do you know it's an OR or NOR gate? So I start with two things. If A and B are given, okay, so what I do is I check for AND gate, I check for OR gate, then I check the answers for NAND gate also, and I check the answers for NOR gate also. But I got lucky this time. I just checked for OR gate and then I checked for NOR gate and my answer matched. Right? Are you understanding? So we have the inputs. We have inputs here 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, and 1, 1. We have the inputs. I put the inputs and check it for different gates. I start checking it for OR gate, then I check it for NOR gate, then I check it for AND gate, and then I check it for NAND gate. If these four options doesn't match, then I check for XOR gate. Okay, so this is how I approach. I check for each gate individually, and whichever gate matches, I write my answer. Now here, the inputs are A here, but the B is not directly coming here. The complementary of B is coming. That means B bar is coming here. Similarly, B is directly coming here, but here A bar is coming, and both are becoming AND operations, and finally they are becoming OR operation. So देखो, so A B bar is AND, B A bar is AND, okay, but together they are OR. This will give you Y. So which option is correct? Second option is correct. Now here, a 1.5 meter tall with his eye level at 1.38 meters stands before a mirror fixed on the wall. The minimum length of the mirror required, remember, doesn't matter where his eyes are. Just the answer is L by 2. The answer will be 0.75 meter. Just remember this thing, no need to worry. Otherwise, you can draw it. If he wants to see his feet, first he needs to see his feet, right? So the ray of light will strike here and will strike his eye. Then he wants to see his head, it will strike here and strike his eye. So if you see this particular blue portion, this is coming out to be geometrically exactly half of his total height, that is L by 2. That is, it is 0.75 meter. Now an observer is walking away from a plane mirror with 6 meter per second. So this is the plane mirror. Can you see this? So this is your plane mirror. And in this plane mirror, can you see the object is going away from the plane mirror with 6 meters per second? Yes or no? With 6 meters per second is going away. So what will happen to the image? Image will also move with 6 meters per second, but in opposite direction to the motion of object. So we will say velocity of image with respect to object will be velocity of image minus velocity of object, right? So you just put the values here and get your answer. It comes out to be minus 12. Simple question and a simple solution, right? The light reflected by a plane mirror may form real image. See, a plane mirror forms virtual image for real object and real image for virtual object. That means if object and image, see, for plane mirror, if this is real, image is virtual. This is real means the rays are diverging. The rays that are coming to the mirror are diverging. And if object is virtual, then image is real. This is what? When the rays which are coming to the mirror are converging. You understand? For example, this is a plane mirror and the rays are coming like this. So they are meeting here. So technically object is in the mirror. But what will happen? They will reflect and they will meet here. So the image is real and object is virtual. This is the case. This is a genuine case. Everybody knows that if u is equals to minus 1.5f, v is equals to minus 3f, and magnification is equals to minus 2. This is a general case, everybody knows. Otherwise, if you don't know, apply 1 by v plus 1 by u is 1 by f, right? They have clearly mentioned that it's a concave mirror. If it is a concave mirror, u is minus 1.5f, and focal length you will take minus f only because it's a concave mirror. And if this is the direction of incident rays, this is focus, this is center of curvature, this is object, everything is measured opposite to the direction of incident rays. That is why we take them negative. So from here v will be minus 3f. Got it? So answer is given there. Otherwise you just remember this. Now this is the answer. What do you do? In such cases you do 360 degrees by theta. And if it is even, then answer will be 360 degrees by theta minus 1. So let's find out 360 degrees by 45 degrees. What is the answer? 8. 8 is even. So your answer is 8 minus 1, that is 7. So what is the correct option? 7. Here it's very simple. I'll draw the graph for you. So no need to match anything here. Just remember the graph that I'm giving you. Okay. This is how the graph is drawn. If this is V and this is U, graph is like this. Now this point is F, this point is F. Okay. So when U is F, image is at infinity, and when image is at F, U will be infinity. Okay. So this is the exact diagram. So which of the following matches? This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Obviously third option is correct. 29th question. This is a wonderful question and a very easy and scoring one. See, a ball is thrown vertically downwards with speed v naught. Obviously, when it strikes the ground, will strike with speed v1 from a height h. Now, when it goes again, its final velocity is 0. So when it you know rebounds with the velocity v2, it will go to the same height h. So that v2 will be root 2 gh. Now, let's talk about the energies. So kinetic energy after collision is half mv2 square. Half mv2 square is a kinetic energy after collision, which is 50% of kinetic energy just before collision. That means half of half mv1 square. So from here we have this information that v2 square is v1 square by 2, or v1 is equals to 2v2 square. Now v2 square will be 2gh. So we will say v1 square is equals to 2v2 square, and v2 square is 2gh. So it is 4gh. Do you understand? So what is v1? v1 square is v0 square plus 2gh. That also we know due to energy conservation. This equation we get due to energy conservation, right? Or we can simply say final velocity is v1, height it fall by is h. So we can say it like this. See, we can say like this: v1 square is equals to v0 square plus 2 into minus g into height fallen by is minus h. That is why v1 square is equals to v0 square plus 2gh. This also we know already. So using these equations, this is equation number 2, and let's say this is equation number 1. So we can say v0 square is 2gh and then put the values and get your answer. Okay. Now here they have given you vector r1 position vector and vector r2 position vector, and they have given you vector f also. What is the work done? Work done is f dot delta r. What is delta r? Vector r2 minus r1. Do this and do the dot product and get your answer. So it will be how much? 4i cap plus 3j cap dot 4 minus minus 2, 6i cap. 3 minus 5 is minus 2j cap. Now do it. 4 6 are 24 minus 6. 4 6 are 24 minus 6. Acha, oh my god, k cap, k cap, k cap. Be very careful, very, very careful, very careful. Okay. Dot 4 0 I cap minus minus, so it is 2 I cap. 4 j cap minus 5 j cap is minus j cap plus 3 k cap minus 0 is 3 k cap. Now you do the dot product. It will be 8 minus 3, that is 5 joules. Got it? So this is your work done. Question number 31 again. Force is given variable, this time it depends upon x. So what you do? You will say, sir, f dot dx integration will give you the answer. So 2 plus x dx, integrate and you will get the answer. So it will be 2 dx plus x dx integrated from 1 to 2. So it will be 2x from 1 to 2 plus x square by 2 from 1 to 2. So your answer will be 2 plus 1.5, that is 3.5 joules. Got it? 32. Work done by friction in moving around a closed body. Closed loop is 0. Work done by kinetic friction is definitely zero. So work done by, sorry, not kinetic, work done by static friction might be zero, but okay, we are talking about kinetic friction only. So they are saying that work done by force of friction in moving a body around a closed loop is not zero, is non-zero, first of all, because friction, the work done by friction doesn't depend upon the path. Work done does not depend upon the nature of force. No, it depends upon the nature of force. If it is gravitational force, then it is different. If it is frictional force, then it is different. So both are wrong. Now they are asking a spring has, okay, so there is a spring which is already elongated by x1, and then if it is further elongated to x2, and what is the change in potential energy? So formula is half k x2 square minus x1 square, right? The formula is in front of you. Put the values and get your answer. This is an interesting one. A uniform rope of length L and linear density mu is on a smooth horizontal table with a length L lying on the table. So length L is lying on the table, right? Length L is lying on the table. So how much is hanging? Capital M and small l. Now in order to pick it up, we just need to focus on its center of mass. So we can convert this complete rope which is hanging into a point mass, which is here at a height of capital L minus small l by 2. And if you just lift this point mass up here, the amount of work that is done in lifting this center of mass, the same amount of work will be done to lift this complete chain up. So we just have to lift this center of mass up here. So what is the work done, or what is the change in potential energy? You will say mgh. So this is your h. So mgh. So mass of that hanging portion into g into height. Mass of that hanging portion will be mass per unit length into length of hanging portion. Mass per unit length into length of hanging portion into g into h. Automatically you will get first option is correct. Okay. Body is projected vertically up with velocity at a point P. See, initially when it is at ground, so at this situation you will say kinetic energy is half mv naught square and potential energy is 0. So total energy is half mv naught square plus 0. So I can say total energy is also half mv naught square. Got it? Now let's begin with this step number 1. Potential energy at any point upon kinetic energy at any point will be, what is potential energy? This is what total energy minus, this is what kinetic energy. So total energy minus kinetic energy upon kinetic energy. So it becomes V naught square by V square minus 1. Now you solve it. Values are given and the answer comes out to be 5:4. Got it? Question number 36. A charged particle enters a uniform magnetic field with a velocity vector at an angle 45 degrees. That means the situation is somewhat like this. This is magnetic field. This is velocity vector at an angle 45 degrees. So definitely it will have two components. One will be parallel, another one will be perpendicular. The perpendicular one is responsible for the circular motion, the parallel one is responsible for the forward motion, and together they are responsible for the helical motion. What is the formula for pitch? Pitch gives you the distance moved in one rotation. The distance moved along magnetic field in one rotation. So it is horizontal speed into one time period. So V parallel into time period is what? Total distance 2 pi r upon V perpendicular. So V parallel is V cos 45, V perpendicular is V sin 45. Take the ratio and then this is your answer that you get. Now here, a wire is given like this. See, whenever a wire, this kind of wire is given, always remember the effective length is this. That means we can replace this wire with an effective wire of this length, join their ends. Okay, do you understand this? So we will get a wire of this length. So whatever this length is coming out to be 3 centimeter. So whatever force this wire is experiencing, the same force this complete arrangement is experiencing, right? Now you tell me, where is magnetic field? Is inside. The current is going from A to C. So yes, the current is going from A to C. So where is the force? I L cross B, L cross B, where is the force? Force is acting upwards. The force is acting upwards. Now this is the force acting upwards, ILB. Now you tell me, what is the acceleration? It is force upon mass. So I is given 2 ampere. Length is given 3 centimeter. Magnetic field is given 2 Tesla. Mass is given 10 grams meter per second square. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What is the answer? 12 meter per second square. In the vertical direction, that means along y-axis. So second option is correct. 38. See, if this is a wire, it is not visible like this, but this is the wire is kept like this. This is a wedge like this. Do you understand now? So this is a complete, the wedge is like this. The wedge is like this, and this is the wire. This is the wire, and it is coming down with constant velocity like this. Are you able to see? So it is coming down with constant velocity like this. Now since this wire is coming down, what is the where is the magnetic field? The magnetic field is acting up. Where is the velocity? The velocity is here. And where is the current? The current is into the plane. So if you do IL cross B, IL cross B, I cross B, where is the force coming? I cross B, B is up, I is inside. I cross B, where is the force coming? This side. So this is the magnetic force that it is experiencing. And this is the weight that is experiencing. There are two forces. Now if it is moving with velocity V along the plane, that means the net force on this wire along this direction is 0. That means the component of FB here and the component of mg here are getting balanced. So what are these components? Can you tell me? This will be ILP cos theta, and this everybody knows is mg sin theta. So you will say, sir, these two components are balanced. That is why velocity is constant and acceleration is 0. So you will say, sir, ILB cos theta is equals to mg sin theta. Do you understand? So from here you can say magnetic field is nothing but mg into tan theta upon IL. Got it? Now here they have given you a long wire. So length is given, current is given, magnetic field is given, velocity is given. What do you need? Is power. So what is force? ILB. What is power? F into V. Just put the values and get the answer. This is a very simple question. 40, question number 40. They have given you velocity vector number 1. Then they have given you magnetic field vector. Yes. What is force? We know that Q times vector V cross vector B. So do this. Do the cross product of V and B, vector V and vector B, and then multiply by the charge. You will get the answer. Same formula based question. Now this is an interesting one. There are two identical dipoles of magnetic moments given 1 ampere meter square. Each are placed at separation of 2 meter with their axis perpendicular. So this is one dipole M1, as you can see here, and this is another dipole M2, but they kept perpendicular to each other. So at a point in between them, so the total distance between them is 2 meters. The total distance between them is, this whole distance is 2 meters. But at midpoint they want us to find out the overall magnetic field. So because of M1, the magnetic field will definitely be along M1 only, and because of M2, the at this point the field is equatorial, this position is equatorial. So magnetic field will be where? Magnetic field will be opposite to M2, like this. So what is, see, M1 and M2 both are magnitude wise same. M1 is equals to M2 is equals to M, right? So magnitude wise they are same. So if again M1 is equals to M2 is equals to M. Now what is the field due to M1? So let me write down. Field due to M1 will be B1, it is 2 times sorry, not 2 times, mu naught by 4 pi into 2m by r cube, right? And B2 will be, since it is equatorial position, so mu naught by 4 pi into m by r cube. Now if I say B2 is equals to B, then B1 simply becomes 2B. Now you put the values. So B and 2B are there. Can you see it now? So at 90 degrees. So if you add them vectorially, the answer will be root 5B. Put the value of B here and then put all the values and get your answer. Got it? Now here, two isolated north poles, strong pole strengths, okay, given. So this is one pole, this is another pole. So obviously there will be a null point in between them. So let's say the distance of that null point is x from the weaker one and 30 minus x from the stronger one. So obviously magnetic field formula is mu naught by 4 pi into m by the distance square will be equal to mu naught by 4 pi into m by distance square. Do it and get your answer. Now this was a bar magnet whose pole strength is small m and the length is 2L. So what is the magnetic moment? M into 2L initially, number one. Number two, when you bend it so that the angle between them is 60 degrees, right? Now the effective length becomes L. So obviously pole strength doesn't change but length becomes half. So magnetic moment also becomes half. So answer will be m by 2. Question number 44. So here these are our inputs, whether it is forward biased or backward biased, forward biased or backward biased. Okay. Output is the value of V naught, whether it is V naught or 0, right? So this is plus 5 volts. Now tell me, if any one of them is forward biased, there will be current here and that current will flow. If any one of them is forward biased, and if the current flows, then all the potential will drop in this resistance itself. So V naught will become 0. That means if the current flows through any one of the diode, the potential at V naught at this point will become 0. That means if any one of them is forward biased or any one of them is 1, any one of them is 1, out of these three possibilities, V naught will definitely be 0. Right? So 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Any one of them is forward biased, V naught is 0. But if both of them are reverse biased, then there will be no current. And if there is no current, then V naught will remain V naught. That means if both are reverse biased, then answer is 1. So this corresponds to AND gate. I hope you understand this thing. So we have to check whether the diodes are forward or reverse biased. That is our input. Output is the value of V naught, whether it will be complete V naught or 0. 45. This is an interesting question. The time is 4:20. See, 4:20 doesn't mean that the smaller hand will directly point at 4. 4:20 means the minute hand will be at 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the smaller hand will be little ahead. Smaller hand will be between 4 and 5. As you can see, the blue one is the smaller hand between 4 and 5. Yes or no? So that is why when you take its mirror image, the smaller hand will be between 7 and 8. It will not be exactly at 8, it will be between 7 and 8. And the minute hand will exactly be at 8. So that is why the timing will be 7:40 if you just reverse it or laterally invert it. If object is real, a concave mirror can give a virtual image. Yes, it can give. So this is true. A concave mirror can give a diminished virtual image. No, it can give virtual image. See, when the object is kept here, if you remember, between focus and pole, image is formed here, but it is diminished but enlarged. Virtual, erect and enlarged. So second one is false. A convex mirror can give a real image. False. No, never. Okay, it can give, but when the object is virtual. But for a real object, because they initially mentioned that the object should be real. A convex mirror can give a diminished virtual image. Yes, this is true. So what are the false statements, second and third? So second and third, that means second option is correct. Very carefully you do it. Okay. Now an object 3 centimeter tall is placed in the principal axis on the principal axis of a concave mirror of focal length 9 centimeter, whose focal length is 9 centimeter, at a distance of 12 centimeter from it. Okay. What is the nature and size of image? So first of all, find out the magnification. F upon f minus u. Put the values. F will be minus 9 because it's a concave mirror, and u will be minus 12. So minus 9 upon, put the values, get minus 3. So my magnification is height of image upon height of object. So height of image is what? Minus 3 times height of object. So it is minus 9 centimeter. And definitely if the object is kept at a distance 12 centimeter, that means it is kept between C and F. So if the object is between C and F, definitely image will be found beyond C, real, inverted and enlarged, which we can see. Okay. 48. See, they have given us a car and a truck moving with same kinetic energy. To stop them, brakes exerting equal forces. So kinetic energy is same and equal forces are same. But we know that truck is heavier, right? Now, which one will stop first? See, if kinetic energy is p square by 2m and kinetic energy is constant, so p is directly proportional to root over mass. That means greater mass will have greater momentum. Now, force is delta p by delta t and force is constant. So delta p is directly proportional to delta t. That means the one with greater momentum will have greater time to stop. So from equation number 1 and equation number 2, we can say that finally the time to stop is directly proportional to root over mass. So heavier object will stop late and the lighter object will stop fast. This is a very common formula. The formula for conservative force is minus of du by dr. That means derivative of potential energy. Right? So you differentiate this whole function and equate force to be 0. That is the condition for stable equilibrium. You will find the value of R, which will come out to be 2a by b. Okay. See, I'll tell you, du by dr will be how much? It will be minus 3 minus 2a by r cube. Then since it is minus plus, then minus b upon r square. It will be equal to 0. So from here you can say r is equals to 2a upon b. Okay, just solve it properly, again you will get the same answer. Question number 50. See, the area under force and displacement graph gives you work done, and work done according to work energy theorem gives you kinetic energy. This area is work and work is change in kinetic energy. So f dx, area, is equal to change in kinetic energy. So find out area. Area is half into, this is a trapezium, so distance between two parallel sides of trapezium into sum of the parallel sides of trapezium, this is the area of a trapezium, right, is equals to half mv square. Find it. V will be 40 meter per second. That's all for today. Thank you, students, and I believe that you must have understood all the solution to the questions, and the solutions, these solutions must have helped you a lot. Okay, so do this paper once again, try all the questions on your own once again, and then watch my solution. That's all for today. Thank you, students. Do subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.